what, when the stakes are high, the illusory energy tries to mess up our technology. Right then, you showed up.
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure. This is the call they do not want to happen.
There
Oh
you go.
man. Yeah. So after an hour and a half, a full 90 minutes of working through all the technical difficulties, here we are. Oh, I just welcome you guys. I just want to let you know that I started the live broadcast, so this is going to be converted into a YouTube video. So we're just rolling here, and just want to welcome any viewers who will be watching this in the future. And we are here just to speak from the heart and have a frank discussion and honest discussion of some really important topics. Dealing with sexuality and healing from sexual trauma. It's a very vulnerable issue, and we just want to approach it with open hearts and with lots of love. And each one of our contributors tonight has a unique piece to bring. And just in brief, my name is David Bryson. I am the founder of a yoga festival called Evolve Fest that in the last couple of days has just been thrown into massive controversy because of some posts that I posted regarding my personal views on homosexuality. And really the post that I made was inspired. I woke up one morning and saw trending on Facebook that Bruce Jenner is going to be going through a sex change operation, and they're going to be doing a reality show to cover his whole kind of transition. So this is really going to be at the center of our national kind of conversation, since we're so addicted to the reality show thing. It's such a controversial subject. So anyway, that in addition to some other posts that I had made, apparently it went viral. I've not been following it. I'm really just focusing on staying grounded and centered, seeking a place of truth and healing. But right now we're just in the thick of it, and that's basically my story and part of the reason that we're here tonight. And if you guys would like to introduce yourselves, that would be great. Elizabeth?
Yes, my name is Elizabeth Zakheim, and I'm recently tuned into the amazing work David Andrew Bryson is initiating for, I believe, for the betterment of humankind. And he's tackling issues that, frankly, I have not seen anyone in my life tackle before, including, this issue of homosexuality and how the modern paradigm is seeking to normalize it and, in fact, almost make it on par, or perhaps even above just classical family structure of man, woman, and children. It's very, day by day things are escalating. And if you look at the news, you look at the everything coming in through the media, there's a definite destructive bent which I believe needs to be addressed. So I'm glad to be here and to participate in whatever way I can to illuminate on this subject.
Matt.
All right, what's up? I'm Matthew Schild. I guess I got invited onto this call from just some comments I made on Facebook. But yeah, I have intimate knowledge of this from some childhood experiences, as well as just being a part of the fraternity culture, bar culture, and spending a lot of time in Southeast Asia and seeing the various different, call it third-party genders that they have over there. And just being someone who is tackling this issue by myself, sexuality, over-sexuality, under-sexuality, how it relates to yoga, how it relates to the awakening that's happening on this planet, in my opinion. So, yeah, I'm just here to give my take on what I see and how I feel about it.
Thank you so much for being here, Matthew. And I just wanted to add as an addendum that one of the reasons why I'm glad that Elizabeth could be joining us is because she is a student of the Vedanta, which is the ancient teachings of India and the yoga tradition. I myself am a student of the Bhagavad Gita. I identify as, I guess part Hindu in that respect, but also identify as Christian to some degree, kind of like an admixture of the both. If anybody saw Life of Pi, that kind of explains my story, both paths. And really, I respect all wisdom traditions and study the books of all the wisdom traditions, but mainly I'm very familiar specifically with both the Bhagavad Gita and with the New Testament, both of which have well, more so the New Testament, having to have very specific things to say about some of these issues. And outside of the Bhagavad Gita, among the Vedas, there's just such a vast storehouse of knowledge and a endless library of great wisdom teachings within the Vedanta, but they have very specific spiritual rules regarding governing our social lives and personal lives, including sexuality. So we seek to be informed from the collective wisdom of all the tribes of the earth. We understand that in shamanism, there's a long-standing tradition of people who are bi-gendered, being shamanic, and let me say just from the outset that a friend of mine on a Facebook thread with all this controversy going on, said that he's bisexual, and he said that because he identifies within himself both divine masculine and divine feminine, which I definitely do as well, and I've spoken and used that language with many people. In fact, my natal horoscope puts me in all of the houses in water signs. So by birth, I am very much, on my psychic level, emotional, spiritual level, very grounded in the divine feminine, and I utilize that energy many times in my artistic pursuits, writing music, any kind of artistic endeavors. So I'm really comfortable with working my divine feminine, and based upon his definition, not one of physical sexuality, but on an internal spiritual level, I definitely identify as bisexual, just because I welcome and embrace both the divine masculine within me and then the divine feminine as well. But personally, on a sexual level, I'm attracted to females, and I'm with a long-term partner of 6 years. And so that's a little bit of my story. And then I also wanted to say for Matt, too, we're inviting him on because he came on amazingly to our thread and had some great things to share, and I'm just sharing things that he already shared publicly, but really I think will inform this discussion as an adult victim of childhood pedophilia and all sorts of sexual experimentation, and really meditating on the energies that are at work. And he just bought a domain name and starting a website called dickyoga.com. And Matt, I would love to get some more information on Dick Yoga.
Yeah, man, Dick Yoga. Yeah, I mean, honestly, like, from my experience, like, I had a Kundalini awakening when I was probably about 21 years old, smoking a blunt with a bunch of friends. And at that moment, I noticed that all my friends had, like, huge blockages, like, right on their dicks, like, right at the tip of their dicks. I could, like, see the circumcision wound. I could see the root chakra blockage. I could see how it emotionally, like, siphons their energy. And I was like, holy shit, this freaks me out. And at first, I projected onto them, I'm like, all my friends are fucked. And I came home, and the Kundalini awakening continued, and I saw it in myself, and I was like, oh my God, I'm fucked too. And that was like the beginning of my spiritual awakening, which I didn't even know what spiritual awakening was. And then probably about a year later, I came across the power of now and the whole concept of enlightenment. I was like, oh yeah, I get that. I am enlightened. I'm already doing that. And then so it was like, oh yeah, so what do? Meditate? Okay, I'm going to do that. Meditate. All right, I'm enlightened. Leave my body. Okay, no problem. Wait, I can't. Why can't I do it? And then that's when I found the wound. And it was like this deep, dark, twisted energy, like right at the, it varied from, up to my stomach to where it would hide at its deepest point, the very tip of my penis. And so I just meditated on that and traveled around the world, started getting into I learned Tantra, at least like the male side of it, a lot of the stuff about holding your ejaculate and trying to move the energy and getting into all that world in India with some people. And yeah, I mean, I've just been experimenting and like learning all sorts of ancient traditions, from anking to, different things I've been doing, energy manipulation, to even like ways to like hold your dick. Like, for example, like when I'm out in public lots of times, like my sexual energy is huge. So I'm learning I can, I've created a mechanism to like fold my dick up. I call that was the invention. It was like, oh, dick yoga, like do like headstands with your dick, because then no longer is the energy shooting out, to be broadcasted and to collect all the energy with everyone else. It's now brought up so that you start, a equilibrium of yourself, and that's when you can start to do what they call sex transmutation, which is the movement of energy into a higher form of energy. And that's honestly what I see as the most important thing on the planet, because I see all of media and the whole Western society basically preying upon on that wound, that collective wound that everyone has, whether personally or by the collective.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, knock it out.
When you say wound, are you talking about the process of circumcision? Are you talking about the epidemic of pedophilia? What exactly are you talking about? Or
I'm
just
talking
in general?
Yeah, I guess, I mean, I think it was originally created through circumcision, but now it's created, it's more of like a collective lock on the root chakra of the divine masculine, which is now causing it to be reverted. Instead of energy being able to, like when the Kundalini wants to awaken in the divine masculine, and they want to move their energy up and open up their heart chakra and their higher centers, this wound is siphoning the energy so that all that new spiritual energy is being twisted into like sexual pursuits. So I definitely explored this, you know, like I noticed instantly I could go to a bar and drink and just like send a girl like the energy, and I had a lot of one night stands through it until my shoulders started popping out. Like the goddess was like, this is not what you use this energy for. But like I realized that like there's a lock that siphons the energy to then become lustful. You know, what could be divine, transmuted, holy energy for opening up the heart, for opening up higher senses, for opening up the sixth sense, is being siphoned down into a purely lustful, sexual connotation. And that's what I see as the basis of all dysfunctional sexuality. Pedophilia being the one in particular, because I could, I mean, as a victim myself, and as, you know, being able to see it in all the people, like the guy who did it, the various people around him, the whole scene, the whole religious, you know, even like come down to why do religious people have that crown cap, you know, on their head? Because of the energy blockage. The circumcision blockage causes their energy to be siphoned, so then their root chakra, their crown chakra gets blocked. So the whole creation of the yarmulke or the popes wearing those things, it's all a big hiding of that wound. I'm rambling for now, but this is like what I feel so passionate about in my like life, and
No, man, we're here to speak our truth, you know, so all your words are just received respectfully and with lots of love, you know, and, you know, this is all about seeking truth, you know. I don't know the truth. I'm trying to find the truth. I just, you know, am moved by, you know, what to me appears to be right, what feels right, you know, the likelihood of certain things being true or not. I think that the whole thing is that we can approximate truth. We can come always closer to the resonant fullness of truth. And in some cases, know absolute truth upon some subjects, but I don't presume to be a know-it-all or even to be right, and I'm always open to correction. I love correction, and I'd much rather use my energy that upon correction with new information to reformulate my perspective and let go of an old one so that I can grow, rather than using my energy to resist new information that has come to me for my correction. So I just want to submit that, you know, that I want to be receptive and to be teachable and express my willingness to grow and learn with new information. So, you know, I welcome all of that from both of you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, well, I very much agree, Matt, with what you're talking about, that just, for example, the chakra system is just the basic structure of the energy centers going up to the human body. As a transcendentalist, I actually don't believe that I am the body, but the eternal soul. And because of that, the whole point of what I practice, or bhakti yoga, the yoga of devotion to the Lord, is actually getting off the entire bodily platform altogether. And that means reduction of all the vices and addictions and sense gratificatory activities that this world throws at us, to basically turn us into sense addicts, you know, just lustful animals. And the homosexual agenda is just one aspect of that, where of literally countless aspects, which are designed to pull people back down to the animal mentality, the reptilian brain, the fight or flight, the competition, the dog eat dog. And as a result, we have, 7 billion people now, all essentially divided from one another, isolated from one another, and therefore they only have, that sort of perverted, self-gratificatory existence, which keeps us not only from self-realization or attaining a higher birth upon death, but actually any possibility of a cohesive revolution to redirect the way our world is being run right now and the people who are controlling it. I think it all goes together, and sexuality is a big part of it because, as my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada says, the whole world is running on sex. That's what's motivating everybody to do what they do. So if we can get off of that and ascend to, like, for example, the crown chakra is the highest point, like you were saying, and if that's open, then the whole dependence, or the whole my guru calls it an itching sensation, it diminishes, and we can actually fulfill our actual natural propensity, which is to love God and to serve Him. And the power of the lust diminishes when we're situated on the spiritual platform, but that's the only way. And we're in a war right now, as Mr. Bryson has kindly educated us on. And the dark side wants us to be like these animals. It wants us to be regressed and dependent and isolated, and therefore easily controlled.
Yeah, I'd just like to make a point as we engage these very tender and vulnerable subjects that affect human lives and human emotions, and really acknowledging that in this discussion, it's inevitable that we speak of people, because that's what it's all about here, is the dynamics of what's happening on this human sphere. And the trigger for this discussion for many is rooted in either a sense of shame or guilt, or the thought that somebody is trying to generate shame or guilt. So it's really important just from the outset to, set that aside and distinguish that, regardless of anybody's choice, it's their choice. A person's sexual choice is their karma. It's not for me to judge, what a person does in the privacy of their own bedroom, especially if it's two consenting adults. That's their karma, and they take responsibility for their choices, and that's a private choice, and I respect that. And above all, everybody deserves love and acceptance. I've got all my shit as well, what I mean? We all have baggage in different ways, and ultimately on a spiritual level, we are all walking each other home. I mean, that's why we're here, that's why we're communicating, because, the purpose of human life is to self-realization, to discover and identify who and what we really are, and to fulfill our destiny, to discern our duty and to perform. And we were talking about the other night, Elizabeth, is, life, especially in the modern world, affords us with endless distractions. We can literally go from the cradle to the grave with endless awesome entertainment, video games, movies, Did
we lose him?
Yeah, I think so.
Dave, where'd you go, man?
Dave, can you hear us?
Dave.
I'll send him a text.
This is the darkest. This is the most like intimate pain like ever we're talking about. I've known I was supposed to talk about this for the last like year and or even 2, 3 years, but like the minute I start talking about it, like everyone, including myself, starts like fidgeting. It's the fuck. It's
He told me a little bit. He just kind of told me a little bit about what happened to you, and you know, I haven't really heard what you had to say, but just I consider it's an epidemic. I think practically every person I have ever been friends with was sexually abused in some way. I think it's actually extremely common, and it's extremely covered up. And it's yeah, I can't even guess what the real statistics are. Who even really knows? But it seems like, you know, these things are going hand in hand with um, things spiraling further and further out of control, you know, into just total degradation. And I live in where do you live?
I'm in Chicago.
Okay, so you're in a city. I live in Los Angeles, and you know, I see the billboards for the movies that they're putting out. It's totally frightening. You know, I go to the websites like the Daily Mail and the Guardian. Literally hundreds of stories. You know, they're all perverse. They're all disgusting. They're all violent. And I can see there's a clear intent to rip people apart and rip apart any trace of purity, goodness, righteousness. You know, it's a conscious thing. You know.
Yeah, I feel that. I would say, yeah, to add on, yeah, there's that intent, but that's from like almost, you know, the other worlds, the spiritual dimension. The people underneath are just a bunch of shamed, victimized porn addicts, in my opinion.
Yes,
Shamed, victimized porn addicts who are just honestly just fucked. Their heads are fucked. Yeah. Their only way to validate themselves is through more money and more sex. But all their sex is, you know, even if they, you know, their first handful of times they did enough, you know, drugs to make it like, fuck yeah. Eventually, you know, it reaches that like, oh, you know, we're just two, you know, broken humans. And then so they got to just trade in a new one, and then they get a new one, and they get a new one, and then that. So yeah, they swim in that energy, and that's causing. Obviously, they're the ones who are part of the whole, you know, media, advertising, and honestly, some of them I think are just good people in a way. Like I was the president of a fraternity, and like we were fucking dickheads. Like one of the other books I want to write is Stop Being a Dick. Like we were dickheads, but we literally didn't know how to not be dickheads. Like all of our energy was stuck in our dicks. So like we physically, energetically were dickheads. Like we were perceiving reality from our dicks, whether we liked it or not.
Absolutely. And exactly right. And that's the problem, is that the whole sexual energy, that's if someone's consciousness is there, then, you know, I believe in reincarnation. I believe in the eternality of the soul. They're going to pay the price for that. You know, they're going to take a body appropriate to that, like a dog that humps other dogs. But you know, they're going to take an appropriate form of life.
Yeah.
Just do whatever we want and get away with it. There's, you know, there's repercussions for every single decision that we make. So,
yeah,
but people aren't doing that. We're in a culture of blackout ignorance. Nobody knows the real situation. They have a diluted version of Christianity to tide them over. But overall, not to offend Christianity, but you know, there's the real picture is missing. People don't know the reality of what's going on. They don't know the reality of the consequences of their actions. And they're told not to. They're told, watch movies.
Yeah.
Eat like a pig. Do drugs. You know, and just forget anything. Forget any responsibility or autonomy. I got a message from David. He says he's going to start a new hangout. Give me 2 to 3 minutes.
All right. Yeah, I definitely know. Like, this has been my cross to bear from previous lifetime, guaranteed. Like, I read in a spirit science a couple months ago about how your birthmark could be like a symbol to how your last death was.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I have this birthmark like right next to my my penis and my balls. And when I was a kid, I remember specifically being like 5 years old, sitting on sitting on the ground in the bathroom, staring at it, saying, "No one will ever marry you. I'll never be able to get married. Like, I'll never be able to get married." I know, like, I had this deep shame that I like brought in with me, like, to the planet. Like, you know, I probably, like, I think I have a theory that I made a bunch of money, divorced my wife, went bisexual, did a bunch of drugs, and got AIDS. But I mean, whatever. I don't know. That's just a theory. But but I honestly, truly believe that I was trying to like merge my feminine. Like, I realized that I was, you know, imbalanced. So I was truly trying to, like, you know, I went about it. I had the right intentions. You know, in theory, I may have went about it the wrong way, but I think I was violently molested, like much more violently than this lifetime. Like, this lifetime was more of just like a trigger of like this ancient wound of some more violent shit. And that's when, like, last lifetime or previously, I was almost just like, you know, towards the end of my lifetime, I was so trying to get my energy balanced, and I was just, you know, so trying to face my shadow and somehow get to some sort of, you know, balance, that I just, like, towards the end of my life, I just, you know, went haywire. And I've almost picked up where I left off last lifetime in some degrees.
Absolutely. It sounds like it.
Yeah.
There's, you know, and that's exactly, you know, I think we're kind of on the same track, is that, you know, for every action there's an equal and opposite reaction. And, you know, you might not, like, somebody might kill somebody now and they might get away with it, but they're not going to get away with it in the next life. At that point, justice catches up. So for you being, you know, violently abused as a child, it sounds to me like you've very clearly delineated why that happened. You know, you basically brought it on yourself.
Yeah, that's why I put victim in quotations all the time, because, like, in some ways I feel like I'm still up for grabs on, like, what actually happened, you know, this lifetime, last lifetime, did I really repress it, you know? So, like, I'm not in the market for, like, pressing charges and that shit, but I know the energy there, and I know that the energy was, like, activated super high. And yeah, like, from there, I feel like I chose it. Like, I chose this mission.